The moment the latest news began to circulate, a decidedly familiar ripple effect was immediately discernible, spreading with swiftness across the vast landscape of social media platforms, permeating the pages of prominent tabloids, and fueling endless discussions on various royal commentary channels. Each outlet, in its own way, seemed to echo the same pressing inquiry. What, precisely, does Meghan Markle's most recent strategic maneuver genuinely signify for the broader royal narrative? And, perhaps even more pertinently, why is this development reportedly instigating such a palpable sense of unease and apprehension within the hallowed confines of palace circles? On the superficial level, the action itself presents as meticulously curated, impeccably polished, and seemingly in perfect alignment with the distinct personal brand Meghan has been assiduously shaping and refining ever since her momentous decision to step back from her senior royal duties. Yet, discerning royal observers and seasoned commentators alike suggest that beneath this exquisitely crafted and polished exterior, there lies something considerably deeper at play, an intricate web of factors that invariably touch upon historical sensitivities, long-standing and unresolved tensions, and the perpetually fragile relationship that has come to characterize the bond between the Sussexes and the venerable institution they ultimately chose to leave behind. To truly grasp why this particular development is being framed with such gravity, as a legitimate cause for considerable concern, it becomes imperative to look beyond the immediate action itself. One must instead delve into the intricate tapestry of the context surrounding it, meticulously examine the precise timing of its unveiling, and, crucially, acknowledge the exceptionally long and often unforgiving memory of the monarchy. Since her relocation across the Atlantic to the United States, Meghan Markle has embarked upon a deliberate and steady journey to reclaim her public voice, transitioning thoughtfully from a position of relative silence and perceived constraint to one of carefully calibrated and strategic visibility. Each subsequent interview, every carefully chosen partnership, or indeed any public appearance she has made, has been executed with an undeniable sense of deliberation, often artfully framed around overarching themes of personal empowerment, authentic storytelling, and the profound act of redefining one's identity beyond the inherent constraints and expectations of royal life. Supporters of the Duchess universally interpret this progression as a natural and commendable evolution, viewing it as the resolute assertion of autonomy by a woman who has endured years of relentless and intense public scrutiny. Critics, conversely, vehemently argue that each new step, each public declaration, inadvertently reopens old wounds for the royal family, particularly when such actions intersect with the sensitive realms of royal titles, the enduring legacy of the crown, or the intricate behind-the-scenes dynamics that were once considered sacrosanct and intensely private. This latest move, according to the consensus among numerous commentators, lands squarely and unequivocally within that highly sensitive and potentially volatile territory. What appears to profoundly unsettle palace insiders is not necessarily the specific content or explicit nature of Meghan's actions, but rather the potent symbolism inextricably attached to them. The enduring strength and stability of the monarchy, after all, are intrinsically reliant upon an unwavering sense of continuity, a reassuring predictability, and a meticulously managed public image that consistently emphasizes unity, decorum, and a dignified restraint. When a former senior royal, someone once deeply embedded within the fabric of the institution, launches a significant initiative or makes a public statement that subtly, yet undeniably, reframes past experiences or challenges established narratives, it directly confronts and threatens that carefully controlled and curated image. Even in the absence of explicit accusations or the naming of specific individuals, the inherent implications can be sufficiently powerful to ignite widespread concern and apprehension. Royal aides, both those currently serving and those who have previously held positions within the palace, are reportedly expressing considerable worry about how such high-profile moves might be interpreted on the international stage, especially within the diverse and increasingly scrutinizing Commonwealth nations, where the monarchy's image and relevance are already under exceptionally close examination. The element of timing also plays an undeniably crucial and amplifying role in why this particular moment feels so exceptionally charged and laden with significance. The royal family, as an institution, is presently navigating a complex and often turbulent period of transition, marked by profound generational shifts within its ranks and an ever-increasing intensity of public scrutiny from both domestic and global audiences. Against such a backdrop, any unexpected development linked to the Sussexes, particularly one emanating from across the Atlantic, can feel disproportionately amplified and take on an outsized significance. Meghan's decision, therefore, arrives at a juncture when the palace is singularly focused on reinforcing an image of unwavering stability and projecting a serene sense of calm continuity to the world. Within this carefully constructed environment, a high-profile and independently driven move from the Duchess can easily be perceived as an unwelcome distraction, diverting precious attention and focus away from the meticulously planned and strategically crafted royal messaging that the institution endeavors to disseminate. An additional, intricate layer of complexity lies in the stark contrast between how Meghan's actions are received by the broader public and how they are perceived within the exclusive and traditional confines of palace walls. To countless viewers and followers around the globe, her latest step may well appear as a confident and assertive stride forward, a savvy and empowered utilization of her unique platform to narrate her personal story entirely on her own terms. Within royal circles, however, there is reportedly a deep-seated concern regarding the precedent that such actions might establish. If one former senior royal can successfully cultivate and build an independent global brand of considerable influence while simultaneously maintaining a strong and undeniable association with their royal identity, it inevitably raises profound and challenging questions about precisely where the delicate line is ultimately drawn between personal freedom and institutional boundaries. This unfolding narrative is not merely about the individual actions of Meghan Markle. Rather, it is about the far-reaching implications and the potential signals her chosen path could send to future generations of royals who may, in time, seek similar levels of autonomy and independence from the traditional strictures of the monarchy. The pervasive scrutiny from various media outlets has only served to amplify the inherent anxieties surrounding the current royal landscape. Oftentimes, the bold pronouncements found in headlines deliberately frame the unfolding narrative as an inherent collision between contemporary expressions of individuality and the time-honored strictures of traditional royal protocol, thereby actively fostering a continuous story of deep-seated conflict. Even developments that might otherwise be considered entirely neutral or innocuous are frequently reinterpreted and presented as tales of burgeoning rivalry or calculated acts of retaliation, inevitably compelling the palace into a consistently reactive stance. Throughout its long and distinguished history, the monarchy has typically favored a position of dignified detachment, preferring to remain demonstrably above such transient cycles of public discourse, and has, over many centuries, responded directly to commentary only on exceedingly rare occasions. Yet, the recurring succession of high-profile moments unequivocally linked to Meghan Markle fundamentally challenges that deeply ingrained institutional strategy, given that a persistent silence can, at times, be readily interpreted as a sign of underlying weakness or even a tacit admission of culpability. Furthermore, it is undeniably crucial to acknowledge the profound personal dimension that renders this entire situation so extraordinarily emotionally charged. Concealed behind the imposing facade of the ancient institution are individual human beings, each possessing long-standing relationships that span decades, shared histories woven through generations, and a multitude of private experiences that the wider public is seldom, if ever, afforded a glimpse of. For these individuals, Meghan Markle's latest public endeavor may transcend being merely a public relations dilemma. It may instead serve as a poignant and unwelcome reminder of deeply personal fractures that have, to this very day, regrettably yet to fully mend. Astute royal observers and seasoned commentators widely suggest that it is this potent and often unseen emotional undercurrent that genuinely fuels the widespread sense of concern, far more intensely than any singular public announcement or ambitious new project could ever hope to do. Despite the palpable undercurrent of tension, there remains a truly noteworthy and consistent restraint in the manner in which palace sources are reportedly choosing to respond. Rather than engaging in overt criticism or direct confrontation, the prevailing reaction is frequently characterized as one of cautious watchfulness, a meticulous observation coupled with strategic patience. This considered approach reflects a much broader, overarching strategy firmly aimed at assiduously avoiding any form of escalation, even in circumstances where a significant degree of discomfort is plainly evident within the royal household. The very survival of the monarchy, spanning more than 1,000 years, has long been predicated upon its remarkable capacity to absorb profound shocks and adapt quietly, almost imperceptibly, to changing times. And that enduring, time-tested approach appears fundamentally unchanged, even in the face of contemporary challenges that rigorously test its traditional boundaries and long-established norms. As the public debate around these complex issues continues to deepen and evolve, one undeniable truth becomes increasingly clear. Meghan Markle unequivocally remains a powerfully influential figure in shaping the ongoing conversations about the very essence of the monarchy, even from her considerable distance. Her most recent initiative, regardless of one's personal perspective or interpretation, serves to underscore the profound and enduring impact she continues to exert upon royal narratives and, concomitantly, the undeniable sense of unease that such an impact can generate within the most sensitive palace circles. Whether this particular moment ultimately signifies a monumental turning point in the monarchy's trajectory or merely represents another intricate chapter in a long, complex, and still unfolding story, remains to be definitively seen. Nevertheless, its profound significance lies in how vividly it exposes the delicate and often precarious balance between deeply ingrained tradition and inevitable change, between institutional control and individual independence, a challenging equilibrium that the royal family ceaselessly endeavors to navigate in an increasingly rapidly evolving global landscape. As the conversation surrounding these intricate dynamics deepens further still, attention inevitably shifts towards understanding precisely how this latest development seamlessly fits into Meghan Markle's broader trajectory since her departure from royal life, and why her actions continue to resonate with such potent force within the hallowed palace circles. What truly renders her actions particularly impactful is the distinctive way in which they expertly blur the lines between personal reinvention and an immutable institutional legacy. Meghan Markle is no longer formally bound by the intricate strictures of royal protocol, having stepped back from her duties, yet she remains indelibly linked to the monarchy in the collective public imagination across the globe. Consequently, every single initiative she undertakes, every project she champions, is invariably filtered through that powerful association, whether she explicitly intends it to be or not. And it is precisely that lingering, potent connection that consistently keeps palace officials on a heightened state of alert, perpetually on edge. From the specific vantage point of the palace, the formidable challenge lies in meticulously managing a public narrative over which they no longer possess complete and absolute control. For many hundreds of years, the monarchy has meticulously relied upon tightly coordinated messaging, with senior royals operating as carefully curated representatives of a single, unified, and cohesive institution. Meghan Markle's pronounced independence, however, fundamentally disrupts that long-established model. She possesses the unprecedented ability to speak directly to vast global audiences without the traditional filters of royal advisors or the constraints of conventional press briefings, and that direct, unfiltered line of communication can feel profoundly unsettling to an institution meticulously built upon centuries of formality, strict protocol, and a carefully maintained distance from the public. Even when her messages are consciously designed to focus on universal and benign themes such as compassion, resilience, or advocacy, they can, and often are, interpreted as subtle commentary on her past experiences within the royal system, thereby inviting comparisons and analyses that palace insiders would unequivocally prefer to avoid altogether. Beyond the immediate strategic considerations, there emerges a profound and pivotal question regarding both the inherent credibility and the essential relatability of Meghan's public persona and narrative. Those who steadfastly champion Meghan contend with compelling conviction that her personal experiences, meticulously and openly shared with the global public, strike a deeply resonant chord with countless individuals who perceive themselves as unheard, marginalized, or unduly constrained by the unyielding, often anachronistic, rigid structures of established societal norms. This very quality of relatability, they argue, serves to significantly enhance her pervasive influence, a phenomenon particularly pronounced amongst the demographic of younger audiences, who are demonstrating an escalating skepticism towards the deeply entrenched, traditional hierarchies that have long characterized the inner workings of the palace. This perceptible and significant shift in public sentiment, encompassing broad swathes of the populace, is consequently monitored with meticulous attention and considerable apprehension. The monarchy, for its part, has been diligently engaged in persistent endeavors to modernize its venerable image and public perception, yet it undertakes this delicate task with an abundance of caution, acutely aware that any precipitate or excessively swift movement could carry the considerable risk of alienating its deeply traditional and historically loyal base of support. In stark contrast, Meghan's resolute and unapologetic embrace of contemporary, modern methods of storytelling and communication possesses the distinct potential to render the monarchy's carefully calibrated modernization efforts appear strikingly conservative by comparison, thereby introducing one additional layer of discernible tension into an already intricate dynamic. Conversely, a substantial segment of critics, particularly those operating within influential royal commentary circles, frequently interpret and frame Meghan's various strategic moves as meticulously calculated maneuvers. They posit, with a degree of conviction, that each individual step undertaken by her is specifically engineered and designed to strategically reconnect her to a perceived royal relevance, even as she simultaneously operates deliberately outside the traditional confines of royal responsibility and duty. Irrespective of whether such an interpretation holds true or is indeed entirely fair, it undeniably serves as a potent reflection of a broader, underlying anxiety concerning the fundamental boundaries that define royal association. The palace, with its inherent institutional imperatives, is demonstrably keen to uphold and maintain a clear, unambiguous distinction between those members who actively serve as working royals and those individuals who have, by their own volition, chosen to step back from such formal duties. When this crucial distinction appears to become even marginally blurred or indistinct, it possesses the capacity to immediately prompt widespread concern, not only regarding potential public confusion but also, and perhaps more significantly, concerning the perceived dilution and erosion of the very essence of established royal roles. This single, most recent strategic move, from the perspective of these critical observers, carries the inherent risk of further reinforcing and exacerbating that already delicate ambiguity. Predictably, the public reaction to these unfolding events has manifested itself as profoundly and intensely polarized. Digital social media platforms, acting as instantaneous global conduits, immediately ignite with a vibrant, often vociferous, array of competing narratives and viewpoints. On one side, many voices rise in enthusiastic praise of Meghan, commending her for what they perceive as a courageous act of reclaiming her authentic voice and agency. Whilst on the other, a vocal contingent accuses her of needlessly reigniting long-dormant drama and perpetuating ongoing discord. This inherent polarization, in and of itself, constitutes a significant and challenging problem for the monarchy as an institution, which has historically and traditionally endeavored to position itself as a singular, unifying force, ideally situated above the ephemeral fray of political or cultural divides. When narratives and stories intrinsically linked to former members of the royal family generate such intense and widespread public debate, it fundamentally challenges the very foundation of that carefully cultivated unifying image, thereby inadvertently drawing the venerable institution into cultural battles and contentious discussions that it would, by its very nature and preference, assiduously seek to avoid. Knowledgeable palace advisors are widely reported to be acutely and intimately aware of this complex dynamic, even if they, in their official capacities, rarely choose to acknowledge its existence publicly. A second, equally significant factor contributing to the palpable sense of unease within the palace is the expansive international dimension of Meghan's considerable influence. In sharp contradistinction to many royal controversies, which tend to remain largely confined to the domestic sphere of the United Kingdom, her actions and pronouncements possess the unique capacity to reverberate profoundly across the globe, exerting a particularly potent impact within the United States. American media coverage, driven by its distinct cultural perspectives, frequently frames her personal story through the compelling lenses of individual freedom, autonomy, and self-determination, powerful, deeply ingrained themes that resonate with exceptional strength amongst United States audiences. This particular framing can, and often does, contrast sharply and dramatically with the prevailing British media narratives, which habitually tend to emphasize the paramount importance of duty, unwavering service, and time-honored tradition. The resulting transatlantic divide, a chasm of differing interpretations and values, significantly complicates the palace's strenuous efforts to maintain a coherent and consistent global image, a challenge amplified exponentially in an increasingly interconnected contemporary era where digital media platforms effectively and seamlessly erase traditional geographic boundaries. A third, equally compelling area of consideration, and one that is the subject of considerable speculation, revolves around precisely how Meghan's most recent strategic move profoundly affects the intricate internal family dynamics of the royal household. While official statements from the palace itself remain notably scarce and often deliberately circumspect, A multitude of astute royal watchers and seasoned commentators consistently suggest that moments of such high public visibility and contention possess the inherent capacity to reopen deeply private conversations and reignite long-standing, unresolved disagreements within the familial unit. It is crucial to remember that the monarchy functions not merely as a venerable institution steeped in centuries of tradition, but profoundly as a familial unit, and as such, significant public developments inevitably intersect with, and often exert considerable pressure upon, personal relationships that are already complex. For those individuals who remain steadfastly within the royal fold, the experience of witnessing a former member prominently command global headlines can serve as a dual-edged sword, acting both as an unwelcome reminder of past conflicts and historical tensions, and simultaneously as a persistent source of ongoing, often unacknowledged, emotional strain. This deeply personal, human element, which is regrettably and frequently overshadowed by more detached institutional analyses, undeniably plays a significantly more pervasive and profound role in why underlying concerns within the palace often run considerably deeper than any carefully worded public statements might ever suggest. Concurrently, it would be a substantial and indeed misleading oversimplification to exclusively perceive the palace's multifaceted reaction to these developments as purely defensive in nature. A discerning cadre of observers and seasoned analysts firmly believe that beneath the surface, there exists a subtle yet undeniable undercurrent of a somewhat reluctant admiration for Meghan's distinct and formidable ability to consistently command widespread public attention and, moreover, to actively shape prevailing public discourse. Her sophisticated media savvy, coupled with her truly extensive global reach, are qualities that are both striking and utterly undeniable. Indeed, within an entirely different set of circumstances or an alternative contextual framework, those very same formidable skills might well have been wholeheartedly celebrated and strategically leveraged as invaluable assets to the monarchy itself. Instead, by virtue of the current arrangement, these potent capabilities regrettably exist entirely outside of the institution's direct control, thereby starkly highlighting the profound, inherent cost of the separation and underscoring the numerous, invaluable opportunities for synergistic collaboration that might conceivably have been possible under a wholly different set of circumstances and conditions. The unfolding narrative continues to provoke profound inquiries into the very nature of sustainability. A central question emerges. Can Meghan's carefully crafted approach genuinely sustain its considerable influence without inadvertently precipitating a further escalation of existing tensions? Or is it inevitable that each successive strategic move will, in fact, serve to deepen the already perceptible divide? From the perspective of the palace, the overarching strategy appears to remain steadfastly rooted in a philosophy of cautious distance. This involves a deliberate avoidance of direct engagement, while simultaneously maintaining a vigilant and close monitoring of public reaction across various platforms. Such an approach, keenly observed by royal commentators, is a clear reflection of invaluable lessons gleaned from a succession of past controversies, where a tendency towards reactive responses frequently proved to exacerbate, rather than effectively resolve, the complex issues at hand. Ultimately, this most recent development serves to powerfully underscore a broader, more pervasive cultural shift in the intricate ways that power, individual identity, and long-standing tradition are now actively negotiated within the expansive public sphere. The actions undertaken by Meghan Markle are uniquely positioned at the dynamic intersection of contemporary celebrity culture and the venerable, centuries-old institution of the monarchy itself, thereby exposing previously latent fault lines that, in earlier eras, were considerably easier to obscure from public view. The concerns emanating from the palace are not merely focused upon the immediate impact of one individual move, but rather extend to encompass what that particular action profoundly symbolizes within an age characterized by the decentralization of narratives and an increasingly prevalent questioning of established authority. As global audiences intently watch these events unfold and vigorously engage in public debate, the monarchy finds itself compelled to navigate an extraordinarily delicate balancing act, striving to meticulously preserve its immutable core values while simultaneously endeavoring to adapt to a rapidly evolving world in which influential voices, such as Meghan's, undeniably carry significant and far-reaching weight. As this compelling new chapter persistently continues its trajectory of revelation, the longer-term implications stemming from Meghan's latest strategic maneuver are steadily beginning to crystallize, extending their reach far beyond the ephemeral nature of immediate headlines or any transient unease experienced within the palace walls. What genuinely preoccupies the minds of royal insiders, according to the insights offered by numerous longtime observers of the institution, is the cumulative, compounding effect of these successive moments. When considered individually, each discrete development can often be plausibly explained away, perhaps dismissed as inconsequential, or simply absorbed into the ongoing narrative without significant immediate disruption. Taken together, however, they coalesce to form a discernible and potent pattern, one that is systematically reshaping the public's understanding of precisely what it signifies to step away from the traditional strictures of royal life while simultaneously continuing to exert a profound influence upon the monarchy's enduring global image. This dynamically evolving situation fundamentally challenges deeply ingrained assumptions upon which the venerable institution has reliably depended for many generations. One of the most profoundly significant shifts currently underway manifests itself in the fundamental ways in which authority is now perceived and interpreted by the public. Historically, the very essence of royal authority traditionally flowed from an inherent position within the hierarchy, the sacred lineage passed down through generations, and an unbroken sense of historical continuity. Meghan's influence, by stark and compelling contrast, originates from a distinct form of narrative power. She commands widespread attention not primarily due to the existence of an official royal role or title, but rather because of her singular and compelling ability to skillfully frame her personal experiences in ways that resonate deeply and emotionally with a vast and diverse global audience. This particular kind of influence is inherently more challenging to accurately predict and subsequently control, and that very unpredictability proves inherently unsettling to a meticulously structured system that has been painstakingly built upon foundational principles of rigid order and precise protocol. Palace concern, in this nuanced sense, is therefore less about any singular message conveyed and more intensely focused upon the burgeoning recognition that narrative authority, when wielded effectively, can increasingly rival and even challenge established institutional authority in the complexities of the modern age. Furthermore, there looms the critical and ever-present question of legacy. The monarchy, by its very nature, operates with a temporal horizon that spans not merely years, but rather many decades, and indeed, even entire centuries, meticulously curating precisely how each distinct era will ultimately be remembered by posterity. Meghan's sustained and undeniable presence within the public discourse significantly complicates this traditionally controlled process. Future historical discussions pertaining to this particular period will no longer be exclusively shaped by official royal records, painstakingly compiled archives, or carefully managed public appearances. Instead, they will be profoundly influenced by the multiplicity of independent voices that actively offer alternative perspectives and diverse interpretations. For an institution that places immense value on the preservation of historical continuity and an unbroken narrative, this burgeoning diversification of narrative sources undeniably introduces an intrinsic element of uncertainty. Palace aides and strategists may justifiably harbor considerable anxieties about how historians of the future, alongside the broader public, will ultimately interpret this complex era when such a multitude of compelling stories exist and are actively shared outside the traditional, carefully constructed royal framework. Public empathy, it must be acknowledged, plays an unequivocally crucial and pivotal role within this intricate dynamic. Meghan's ardent supporters often frame her personal journey as a powerful narrative of resilience in the face of overwhelming and relentless pressure, a compelling story that instinctively invites widespread sympathy and profound identification from a global audience. When substantial segments of the public emotionally invest themselves in such a potent narrative, it can, quite subtly but profoundly, indirectly affect how they subsequently view the very institution she chose to leave behind. Even in the absence of explicit criticism or direct accusation, the inherent contrast between the perceived individual struggle of one person and the often perceived rigidity of a formidable institution can profoundly influence collective perceptions. This subtle, yet deeply significant, shift in public sentiment is inherently difficult to precisely measure through conventional metrics, yet it is profoundly felt in the collective consciousness, and it stands as one of the primary reasons why palace concern consistently persists, despite any outward facade of calm or composure. Meghan's recent move profoundly illuminates a significant and evolving shift in the very nature of celebrity and the dynamics of influence in the modern world. In previous generations, the revered status of royalty itself stood as the undisputed pinnacle of visibility and public recognition, a position almost universally understood and accepted. Today, however, the expansive reach of global digital platforms empowers individuals to meticulously cultivate and project their own distinct forms of influence independently, often benefiting from unparalleled flexibility and an astonishingly wide reach that transcends traditional boundaries. Meghan operates with remarkable comfort and apparent ease within this contemporary landscape, adeptly leveraging a diverse array of modern media channels to forge direct and intimate connections with her vast global audience. For the ancient and venerable institution of the monarchy, the imperative to adapt to this rapidly evolving reality without in any way compromising its deeply ingrained and distinct historical identity presents an enduring and exceptionally complex challenge. Each successive instance where a former royal achieves notable and undeniable success outside the traditional confines of the institution not only underscores the urgent imperative for internal adaptation but simultaneously lays bare the inherent and sometimes unyielding limits of time-honored tradition. A further and undeniably intricate layer of complexity arises from the palpable impact on the younger generation of royals, who are keenly observing these unfolding developments from their vantage point within the established system. Astute observers and commentators suggest that Meghan's chosen trajectory may subtly, yet profoundly, ignite internal inquiries regarding fundamental concepts such as personal autonomy, the crucial importance of mental well-being, and the delicate, often precarious, equilibrium required between unwavering duty and individual self-definition. Even if such profound and introspective questions are never articulated overtly for public consumption, their internal resonance and significance within the royal household are undeniably potent. The palace's overarching concern, therefore, transcends mere external public perception. It extends deeply into the critical and ongoing need for preserving internal cohesion and maintaining unwavering commitment among those who steadfastly choose to remain within the fold. An esteemed institution that fundamentally relies upon the unwavering dedication of its members for an entire lifetime must exercise exceptional prudence and foresight in managing examples that appear to present enticing alternative paths, potentially diverting from the prescribed course. Notwithstanding these formidable challenges and intricate considerations, it is crucially important to acknowledge that periods of intense tension and perceived crisis have, throughout recorded history, frequently served as powerful catalysts for profound evolution within the monarchical structure itself. Past moments of significant upheaval and crisis have invariably compelled the implementation of necessary and far-reaching reforms, which, in the ultimate analysis, have invariably fortified the institution's enduring relevance and resilience. Some discerning analysts postulate that Meghan's sustained and resolute independence could, in the expansive arc of the long run, constructively contribute to fostering a more transparent and open dialogue concerning essential modernization, the establishment of healthy and well-defined boundaries, and a candid recognition of the profound human cost often associated with the demanding and scrutinized nature of royal life. Whether the venerable palace ultimately chooses to wholeheartedly embrace or steadfastly resist this nascent potential for transformation remains an unfolding narrative that only time will fully reveal, yet the palpable pressure to adapt and evolve is, without any shadow of a doubt, undeniably present and growing in intensity. For Meghan, the foreseeable future will most likely entail a continuous and intricate navigation of her complex and often demanding relationship with intense public attention. Every single move she undertakes, every project she embarks upon, will be subjected to meticulous and often intense scrutiny, not solely for its inherent content and immediate implications, but perhaps even more so for its perceived ramifications and potential impact upon the wider royal family. Her ardent supporters will invariably perceive her actions as powerful demonstrations of personal empowerment and profound authenticity, viewing them as courageous statements of individuality. Conversely, her vocal critics will interpret these very same actions as calculated provocations and meticulously planned strategic maneuvers, designed to achieve specific outcomes. This inherent and inescapable duality of perception ensures that her every action remains perpetually newsworthy, thereby consistently reinforcing her pivotal role as a central and influential figure in the ongoing, multifaceted discussions about the monarchy's enduring place within contemporary global society. As the metaphorical dust gradually settles upon this most recent development, a singular, undeniable truth emerges with striking clarity. The overarching narrative is no longer confined to a solitary decision or a specific public announcement. Instead, It encompasses an ongoing and profound redefinition of entrenched roles, individual identities, and the very nature of influence itself, all unfolding within a world where venerable tradition and relentless transformation coexist in an often uneasy and dynamic tension. The concerns emanating from the palace walls unmistakably mirror a broader, pervasive anxiety regarding the maintenance of control in an era where such control is proving increasingly elusive and difficult to grasp. Meghan Markle's latest, significant move serves as a potent and timely reminder that even institutions that have endured for many centuries must inevitably contend with the formidable power of individual voices, and that the very future of the monarchy will undoubtedly be shaped not exclusively by those who steadfastly choose to remain within its ancient walls, but equally, and perhaps even more profoundly, by those who have courageously chosen to step beyond them.